Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I am your host, Justin Panic. I do not have a co-host today for the beginning because Bobby Skinner is still enjoying his wedding week, coming off the wedding weekend. But I did have on a special guest, Jordan Raanan from ESPN. You know him, you love him. We've had him on a lot. Jordan does numbies, and that's what I love about Jordan. Jordan really did me a favor. I was in a pinch. I reached out to some other people. I was like, hey, can you come on? Can you come on? No. Or I just didn't hear back because, hey, people at the Combine, they're very busy. But Jordan took some time out, about a 40-minute interview. Really good stuff, really good nuggets. Talked about Stafford, the Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback spot, pick number 3, free agency, what the Giants' philosophy is, all that kind of stuff. Excited for you to hear it. Hope you enjoy it. And before we get to the interview and before we start talking to Jordan Raanan, today's episode is sponsored by Corona. You know what I always try to be? A fan that never loses. Here's what I mean. We all know that my team doesn't win every single week, but even when they lose, I'm still loving the game because whether it's a big deep ball, some third and short conversions, or just a great tailgate out in the parking lot, there is always something to cheer for, and the best beer. How are you going to pair that with awesome moments? How about Corona? Corona is all about finding the max amount of joy within every moment of the game. Win or lose, at home or on the road, it's the perfect beer to go along with watching football and all the moments that come with it. So cheers to everyone who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona. For the fans who never lose, get yours at ordercorona.com for 21 plus. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer, imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. And here's Jordan Raanan of ESPN. All right, we want to welcome on to the show from ESPN, Jordan Raanan. Jordan, you're doing me a huge favor. It's very clear why you're a Tony Award winner.
You're my guy.
Because Bobby Skinner, I'm like, Bobby, what are we doing tomorrow? Are you going to be on? Are you not? He's like, all right, well, I got to do something. And I haven't really heard from him, and I don't want to bother him. It's his wedding. It's the week after the wedding, but, no one Talking Giants is his baby. He doesn't want to leave it alone, but he left it alone. And I reached out to this person, that person. Can he be on the show? Can he be on the show? And I'm like, you know what? If there's somebody that I know that's got me in a pinch, it's Jordan Raanan. So welcome onto the show. Thank you.
Am I the fourth choice?
You're not the fourth choice, and I told you this. You're doing me a favor. You would always be the first. But I feel like we use you too much.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. That's honestly the thing.
Guys, I got you. I mean, is 20 minutes of my time that valuable?
I would say yes. I consider my 20 minutes very valuable.
Well, you're giving me too much credit here.
Oh, thank you.
No,
well, thank you for hopping on.
The Combine is hectic and busy, but I was coming back to my room, so I got you, man.
Right on. Yeah, so you're in Indy. Beautiful backdrop behind you for the YouTube people. Sorry, pod listeners, but you're in Indy. You have the Joe Schoen presser. There's Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers wants to come play here because nobody else wants Rodgers. We're going to get into it all, but the first question I want to lead off with, how's Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport doing?
I am going to lay off that one. You know what I mean?
Give me a play-by-play. No,
I like my job. I was
crazy.
there. That's all I got to say. So leave me out of it.
Okay.
Keep my mouth shut. I like my job. I like to keep my job. I like to not attract attention from my bosses, All
right. Well, I didn't tell you this, but you had a one opportunity to say I can't answer that. You already used it, so I got you. How do you like that? You're not allowed to say it again. No, but I mean, so we'll lead off with this. I think this is one of the more least interesting parts of it. Joe Schoen presser. Hey, it wasn't broadcasted, so you're the eyes and ears that we had down there. How was that presser? I think he was the first one, right? He was one of the first ones out there. So, how was that presser? What was what's your takeaways from that?
Yeah, that was the first one of the week. It was a bunch at the exact time, 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Get it out of the way early, then they can concentrate on what they do here, and that's interviewing prospects, which is one of the biggest things here. Interviews and medical are pretty much the two biggest things for teams, by the way. Like the stuff on the field, for some positions relevant, really just confirming what they think of guys anyway, what they've done in their scouting. So the big part of this is those interviews, especially for quarterbacks. Those interviews are obviously massive. And Joe Schoen said, one of the things he said was, we haven't gotten a chance to sit down with Cam Ward yet. Now that's going to happen this week if it didn't happen already. Not sure exactly what day that is. Probably did happen, actually, or it's tonight. So, but my main takeaway was that Joe Schoen, he said two things that kind of caught my attention particularly. One is we're going to get the best quarterback to win games in 25.
Yep.
Right? Okay, they're going to get the best quarterback for this year to win games. This isn't like worrying about building the team out for the long-term future, getting our future franchise quarterback. That part of it is we have to try to win games this year. Duh. We all know John Mara essentially put them on the hot seat. I can't begrudge Joe Schoen and Brian Abel for saying, well, we need a plan that's going to win us some games immediately, because otherwise, let's be honest, they're not going to be here. And the other part of it was saying, I'm willing to take big swings at the quarterback position. But he hasn't quite done that so much in his career since being here. But that's sort of like, I think, is a precursor to saying, hey, we know we have to make big moves for quarterbacks here, whether that be Matthew Stafford, whether that be Cam Ward, whether that be Shedeur Sanders, whoever.
Yeah, so right now it seems to be that they're in on Stafford.
They're in on Stafford.
Yeah, so where is that? Like, that's my main question. Where, I think they've been on Stafford for a while. I mean, there was even the report and some rumblings that they even made a call to the Rams during the regular season, but the Rams started to win some games, so their season changed. Obviously, the Giants' season went the way that it did. So they're in on Stafford, and we've been talking about Stafford on this show for a couple weeks, but I feel bad that we're still talking about this like it's old news. But Jordan, I feel like it's very much not. So where are we at in this timeline of Matthew Stafford, Giants going, or even going somewhere else, staying with the Rams? And then when do you think this could be sorted out?
I think it's going to be sorted out very soon. Like, let me check my phone soon. No, not now, but
okay.
Who knows by the time this is running? You never know. But yeah, I think within the next few days, this is something that might be sorted out. And I think the more this process goes along, it seems like the Raiders are now a bigger part of it, maybe than they were a week or two ago. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, the Giants is pretty clear. And I woke up yesterday in the morning, and after talking to people the day before, I put out a tweet and said, it's pretty clear. Like the first thing on the checklist for the Giants is see what happens with Matthew Stafford, see if we get him. Like that's, and then, okay, if hypothetically they don't get him, then they maneuver from there. Okay, what's the next option on the veteran list? Because that was another thing Joe Schoen said. I don't know if you caught that. I thought was very important, was that we want a veteran who can mentor the young quarterback. Like, so it's important to them to have a veteran quarterback who had success in this league, who can mentor that young guy, whether it be Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, like a guy like that, I think is what, to me, that was signifying.
Would you even consider, like, this is in the case of, let's say, Matthew Stafford stays with the Rams, Aaron Rodgers goes somewhere else. Would you even consider that veteran like a Jameis Winston, who, you could put, quote unquote, you could put success in relative terms. Obviously, Stafford and Rodgers are successful NFL QBs, but Jameis Winston has been in this league for a while, even though he's not been, quote unquote, having the same success as those other guys.
Yeah, I mean, as you go down the list, I think that's, where you're going, right? If you take down the list, you say in hypotheticals, those guys are gone. Yeah, I think Jameis would eventually enter the picture. But I haven't gotten the impression that, that's the guy that the Giants are going to be super, that they're going to go target early if Matthew Stafford doesn't happen.
Right. Maybe put a pin in Stafford for a second.
He's had like some individual success, but he's never really had success as a starter in the league in regard to leading his team to victories.
Right. We'll put a pin on Stafford maybe for a second, because I think we're just going to naturally just come back to him. But this was Pro Football Talk. They're mentioning that Aaron Rodgers is maybe reaching out to different teams, and the Giants may be one of them. Any kind of Rodgers rumblings, because obviously, an alternative, if you want a veteran who's had success in this league that could help you win in 2025, it is a cheaper option than what Matthew Stafford would be, and it's probably in a case where you don't have to give up any picks because Rodgers is probably going to be released from the Jets.
Yeah. I actually spoke to someone today who suggested it to me. They say, hey, if Matthew Stafford, they don't get Matthew Stafford, this person didn't think that the Giants would get Matthew Stafford. They thought that he was going to end up either back with the Rams or with the Raiders, and that Aaron Rodgers would end up being an option with the Giants. So I think it's within the realm of possibilities. I don't know if it's choice number one or whatever, but it kind of fits what the Giants are looking for. And I don't know this. I didn't hear that Aaron Rodgers reached out to them. What I kind of heard was that it was the other way. This is what it is down here, is that teams meet with agents and talk to agents and say, about their available free agents or guys that are about to be available or traded or trade options, whatever it may be. And this is an opportunity for the teams to meet with these agents and do that. So I think it was the other way around. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is calling up Joe Schoen and saying, "Hey, I'm available."
Or even his representatives. Like when I say Rodgers, I probably don't mean him personally, but there's representatives and agents and stuff like that.
Yeah, it said that.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that I think but I do think that that's something that behind closed doors is at least been discussed, and I think it is an option. I don't know how strong at this point. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers definitely would be the Giants quarterback. I mean, would you say is more likely not to happen, or more likely not to happen? And I would say at this point, of course, because there's so many options, more likely not to happen. Yeah,
and the what we're waiting to drop. Matthew Stafford is just the ultimate. Whenever that gets decided, wherever he goes, if he stays in LA, goes to Vegas, comes here, I feel like that's the shoe that we're waiting to drop is Matthew Stafford. And then, whatever that decision is, Rodgers becomes more likely. This guy becomes more likely, taking a quarterback at 3. So that's what we're waiting to kind of happen here. A way to go back to Stafford. I've been thinking a lot about the contract and what does that contract look like? Because Matthew Stafford's in a very unique situation right now where he's not necessarily fully looking for an extension, but he's looking for more money right now. It's $40 million AAV. I mean, Kyler and Deshaun Watson are two guys getting 46. Even the guy that Matthew Stafford was traded for, Jared Goff, is getting 53. So Stafford's sitting there being like, I am really underpaid. So he kind of wants the deal that he has right now kind of thrown out, given more money right now. But I'm sure if you're adding money and you're adding guaranteed money, you're also going to be adding years. So I've been thinking a lot about the contract. And that also makes me think about the Giants and what their overall philosophy is heading into this offseason. So not even asking you what you think about a Matthew Stafford contract. If you want to talk about that, maybe, if you can. But what are you hearing in terms of the Giants, how aggressive they're going to be in free agency? Is it going to be so aggressive to the point of, like, we're adding void years and we're backloading deals and we want to get those stars. We want to aim at the top of the market for certain positions of need, like corner, like interior offensive line. The Giants are one of 2 teams in the NFL to not have any void years on their contracts. So they can get aggressive, selectively aggressive with some of this stuff because the cap situation that they have this year and especially in future years is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they can. Joe Schoen did bring that up. He said that, we've looked into it. It's definitely something we need to look into. Somebody mentioned to him they're 1 or 2 teams, but it didn't sound like, okay, that's our plan right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they're at that point of their build where they want to do it. Now, the reason other teams do it is because it gives you an advantage. $1 million now, right, is in $1 million in 5 years down the line. That $1 million 5 years down the line is now $800,000, right? Because the cap's going up and the value of the dollar in the NFL is just less. Yeah. So you're benefiting from that if you work that way. So they're actually, teams do it because it gives them an advantage, right? They're stretching the value of their dollar longer. Yes, they have to pay some of it on the back end, but they're paying less of it than you're paying up front. So I do think they're going to look into it and probably eventually go in that direction. It didn't sound I haven't heard anything elsewhere. It didn't sound from listening to Joe Schoen. I almost called him Joe Judge.
Sure. Miss him.
It didn't sound like it was something that's in the plans and in the cards to do heavily this year. Okay, we're going to go on. But they're going to make some big moves. Like there's definitely positions you look at, like they're going to get a guard. They're going to get a high-end cornerback some way, shape, or form. It doesn't necessarily have to be free agency. There's some trade options out there in those positions. But yeah, they're going to make big moves at that position. Those two positions, at least that's what I know of so far. We're only kind of in the middle of the process here.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let's talk about free agency and like is specific targets or, what can you say? What can't you say? I think they're going to be big spenders in certain areas and may try, bargain hunt in some other areas and supplement. And that's kind of how free agency should kind of work, ideally. So what do you think their philosophy is going to be? And is there any specific names that have come out of Combine Week that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, let's start with the idea. Also, you have to say this because it's very relevant. The whole Matthew Stafford plays into this as well, right? How much you're paying for your quarterback. If you're paying $50 million for Matthew Stafford, you're not going to be able to spend the same as if you're paying $10 million for Russell Wilson.
Right. But I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. That's why I think void years and how the Giants structure the contract is so important because, I think Stafford, even though he may get like 50 million AAV, or he may even get more than Goff of like 54, 55. That's why the AAV is so important. It's so important because this year's cap hit may be 20 million, but all that money is pushed down the line. That's why how the contract is structured,
but it doesn't have to be void years.
So important.
If he's not going to play the duration of the contract, you can just make it a 5-year contract and just make it a big signing bonus up front.
Right. Yeah, there's so many ways to do it. I'm just using that as a hypothetical.
Spread over the 5 years, over the 5 years of the deal, and basically, the back 3 years or 2 years, he's not playing, right? And so just take that later. So it doesn't necessarily need to be void years in this specific instance.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to use that as like an example, as like that's something that NFL teams do. But there's so many different ways that you can structure these. Like I've been asked around the office, like, what's a contract that you would be happy with? And I'm like, I have no freaking clue, since there's so many different ways that teams can structure stuff, bonuses and all that.
2 years, $100 million, $50 million on the books each year is not what it's going to look like, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yes, that would be prohibitive for the team and definitely would be counterproductive to the team they're able to build around him.
Yeah. All right. So free agency. Let's slide over to.
You want me to name positions here and stuff?
Oh yeah, yes, that's true. I almost forgot about half the question.
As I mentioned, guard is one where you say, okay, the Giants are intent on continuing to improve and put money into that offensive line. They're going to sign probably another veteran guard, right? Whether it's Will Freeze or Jonah Jackson's now available. A guy keep an eye. Patrick McCarry is another one who's an intriguing guy who played really well for the Ravens last year. Like, these are the kind of names that they're going to be looking at. And you're talking about guys that make money, right? So this is like I think Jonah Jackson was at $8 million, right? So you're looking at like basically a $10 million, $11 million, $12 million range, something like that. Like that's looks to be the range that they might be shopping in regards to offensive linemen and paying for another guard. I expect them to shop at the high end of the cornerback market. You're talking about what? DJ Reed, Ward from San Francisco. And how about this as an option? Something somebody mentioned to me, hey, might be a possibility. Jair Alexander is now available
today,
right? So whether it's him being cut, you trading for him and reworking his deal, whatever it is, these are all, I think, scenarios where the Giants are going to be in play. Like they know that they can't. Seems like they know. Byron Murphy also is a guy. Maybe they'll look into it. I think there's a chance he stays in Minnesota. But that's the high end cornerback market because they know that they can't go into next season and just say, all right, Deontay Banks, you're our number one cornerback again. Let's go. They can't leave themselves vulnerable like that again because we saw how that worked out. It was not good.
Joe Schoen made jokes on national television how after he drafted a cornerback the year before that he had to go out there and play corner, which is awesome. Here's a little
safeties, maybe like a position they'll look to fill with like a lower end veteran, like a guy who's making a more a few $1 million, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Pinnock, it seems, is unlikely to probably return.
Unlikely?
What's that?
Unlikely Pinnock?
I think so at this point.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, it all depends, but I think at this point that's what it seemed like to me. And then
I didn't have this written down, but Slayton.
Say that again.
I didn't have this written down to ask you, but I'm glad you brought up Pinnock. But Darius Slayton, if I'm Darius Slayton, I'm being like, I need out. Like, this is a toxic relationship. Like, I feel like I can go somewhere else and actually be like a legit wide receiver 2 every year besides this year. You know, they've thrusted me into a wide receiver 1 role that I'm not ready for. And then the 1 year that we have a wide receiver 1, the most unstable play, you know, one of the more unstable plays at quarterback that we in the NFL. So Darius Slayton going elsewhere, probably for his sake, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to look at it realistically. Darius Slayton has played on an offense that's been pretty bad his whole entire career. Like, don't you think he wants to go to a team that's a much more functioning offense than he's been a part of since he's been here? And then you also have to be realistic. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll basically tried to bury him on the depth chart twice already.
Yep.
Since they've been here. Like, when he first got here, he was like running in the third team. And in the past year, they tried to put Jalen Hyatt over him to start the summer. Mm-hmm. So, yes, look, if ultimately the Giants have the best offer for him, he'll end up being back. But I think in the deep heart of hearts, he would like a good team that has a good offense to put a good offer out there for him and see what he could do in a team and an offense that's just significantly better than he's ever been a part of. So I think I'd be surprised if Darius Slayton returns as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Giants address that wide receiver position too.
Yeah, very. Because if he leaves, then you're talking about a very young room with no veteran voice. Yeah.
And there's guys like Brandon Cooks. Like, I haven't heard like his name, but I'm just bringing up an example of guys that are out there who aren't going to break the bank at this point of their career. But you're like, you know what? That would be a good answer for wide receiver 2. Cooper Kupp. You know, guys, I mean, Cooper Kupp may be a little above that, obviously, because of what he accomplished, but he hasn't played a lot in the last few years. Guys like that, you say, these are veterans in the league that have played, that have done good things. Like, we need that guy who has proven to be that kind of player in the room. I mean, there's a common theme here, right? We keep talking about this. That's the second position we said that about. There was a miscalculation last year that the Giants made about, you know, they didn't have that kind of leadership in the locker room. We saw how they kind of fell apart. And when we're looking at free agency, I think you're going to have to look at they have to seriously say, well, that's got to be part of the equation here. We need to fill some of these gaps and have these guys that have the respect of people in that locker room.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, I think that's what the Commanders did. You know, you look at what the Commanders did this past offseason, and it's like, well, they're kind of paying these vets that aren't too good, but they're kind of average. They're kind of meh, but they're kind of glue guys. Bobby Wagner.
But Bobby Wagner brings other value, right? He brought
100%.
Unbelievable value to that team. Forget that he could still play a little bit. He's clearly not the same player he once was.
No.
But the value he brings and the respect he has in that locker room, the leadership, I've been there, done that before, like, to have that, like, that is what, you know, sometimes you almost have to overpay for that.
Yeah.
Even though, okay, maybe he's not the same player, but we know it's important to our team because that's how you build a team, a complete team. You need a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Jonathan Stewart. How do you like that?
Yeah,
that's what it made me think of. We always tend to swing and miss when that's the goal for us.
Remember, Gettle was like, Jonathan Stewart still 30. He got it. I think he had like less than 30 yards rushing from that point at the end of his career, which is right on the horizon.
All right, before we keep talking to Jordan Raanan, shut up for a second. We got to talk about DraftKings. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? That's right, you are. You listening to this right now. Because with all new ways to get in on the action with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook, right now, all new customers who bet just $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use code WORLD for Monster Slams to dish in the rock, to clean in the glass, get behind your favorite players, and the props bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use code WORLD. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code WORLD only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Let's keep talking to Jordan Raanan. So we've gone 20 minutes and we haven't even talked about pick 3, which is kind of crazy because there's so many more headlines that come with it, and again, a lot of is this the saying shoes have to fall, and a lot of things have to kind of fall in place before we get to April and the draft and what they may do.
The shoe drops, like
the shoe drops.
Yeah.
Thank you. The
shoe doesn't fall. It's the same thing. It's just a different word.
If you listen to this show enough, I do that often. Like I get sayings right, like people know what I'm saying, but I say it wrong. So pick number 3. It's very contingent on what the Titans obviously want to do, and there's more Abdul Carter rumblings, but now he's getting surgery, even though that shouldn't really impact anything because he's going to be fine. So Giants pick 3. I'm going to let you run with it.
Yeah, he's not having surgery, Abdul Carter.
Oh, he's not having surgery, but I knew that it was on the table.
They thought about it, and then today they said he didn't need it. Whatever. Okay. But look, the reason we're not talking about the draft in number 3 is because the reality is, and don't tell everyone because it's a good talking point. Everyone loves to talk about it. We know who they're drafting, this and that. The process isn't done yet. They have to, how do you know if you want to draft one of these quarterbacks? They haven't sat down with the guy yet, right, face to face, and been able to pick his brain. So the process is still going. It has a long way to go. It is technically now it's February, right? So still February, very end of February. The draft is still 2 full months away. So you're still finishing your evaluation process. They're still there. The teams haven't even made their boards yet. These things haven't even happened. So look, if they don't get Matthew Stafford, I think the Giants absolutely will draft a quarterback at the top of this draft.
Yeah.
Okay. To the point where I wouldn't be surprised seeing the Giants trade up to the number 1 pick in the draft. Not even the slightest. It was made abundantly clear that pick can be had and is available. Mm-hmm. And Joe Schoen made it clear that, hey, we're going to look up and down in this draft. And just like they did last year. So, look, if they don't get Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins, let's say, goes to Cleveland, right? Because he's going to have options. Let's say the Giants are interested in him but don't really want him. And then you start going down the list unless they end up with Russell Wilson, let's say. You can't come back with Russell Wilson and not address quarterback in the draft, right?
That's not the big swing.
That's not even, that would be you better be collecting 3 first-round picks for next year if you're doing that.
Yeah.
Or collect the draft capital for next year. But I don't see them doing that because they're John Mara, when he sat there at the end of the season, said, our top priority this offseason is finding our future quarterback. Future quarterback. The plan going into last season was to, if it went wrong with Daniel Jones, to find and draft a quarterback this year in this draft. So you think when Brian Abel and Joe Schoen went and had a conversation with John Mara at the end of the year, they didn't have a plan to address the quarterback position right now? They're like, no. By the way, keep us. We have a plan. We're going to get it right, but it involves drafting a quarterback probably next year. So you got to wait another 2 years to see the fruits of that. You think that's what they went in there and said?
No, not at all. And I'm now at a point where I'm questioning, because Matthew Stafford has seemed to kind of come out of nowhere, but maybe not. Maybe this has been a conversation that the Giants front office and John Mara, Brian Dable, Joe Schoen, that they've been talking about Matthew Stafford, because clearly if the Rams were thinking about this in season, that maybe this isn't a new thing, even though this is a new thing, at least to us fans. This is new. Matthew Stafford being available. Nobody would have thought that in December and January. So I'm now sitting here wondering as a fan, if, like you said, the Giants don't have any, they haven't made they at least don't have a strong lean. I'm not going to say final decision. At least if they don't have a strong lean on what quarterback they prefer, that being Cam Ward or Sanders, I'm having a hard time sitting here being like, well, how did Joe Schoen and Brian Dable sell their vision and future for the New York Giants to save their jobs if it didn't include an exact quarterback of what they had in mind, and that quarterback being in the draft this year? Because I think they do, and I think that's Shedeur.
Here's my theory. I think, and it's just a theory, okay, at this point.
Yeah.
I think they've said, look, there's 2 quarterbacks in this draft that we'd be comfortable taking. That there's good quarterbacks. These are good quality quarterbacks that you could build. Okay. That it's not just we're getting Shedeur Sanders at all costs. Now, I do think we heard a lot of buzz about Shedeur, and I do think there's people in the organization that feel really strongly about Shedeur Sanders. I also know there's people in the organization who like Cam Ward. So,
Yeah.
Which is why we have to see how this process plays out at this point. And my theory, it's just a theory, is that they went into it saying we feel pretty comfortable, at least looking off tape, that both these guys could be really good quarterbacks in the NFL.
Okay. Makes me a little worried because where would you grade these guys in comparison to even last year's crop? You know, where even Michael Penix and Bo Nix and stuff like that. So, and they had the wherewithal and they had the decision to pass on those guys and even McCarthy. You know, bring in, I think, especially McCarthy out of all these guys, even though McCarthy missed the year, McCarthy was the higher rated prospect, at least in a lot of people's minds, even though Penix went first. So I'm worried about, of course, I'm a fan. I'm a Giants fan. I'm worried about everything right now.
Well, JJ went ahead of Penix. When JJ, right? Penix, Nix, you're talking about then.
No, Penix was the third quarterback.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Actually, you're right. My bad.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I did forget about that. I was wrong about that.
Yeah. Right. That was kind of surprising because they're like, what, you know, and then they wasted all that money. They're gonna have to.
Ultimately, didn't trade up. They waited and still got McCarthy.
Yeah. Which they had that second round pick that they wound up. They had that second first round pick that they used on Dallas Turner. That it was there, and I think that pick was there because they thought that they maybe had to trade up for McCarthy, and they didn't. I did like that. Jordan, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I have one more question for you, or two more. What's the overall tone about the Giants at the Combine? Because we were down in Mobile, and it's like people are like very sympathetic to us. Bobby talked to a lot of people, a lot of agents and stuff like that there too. Like it's been a year where the Giants have just been the butt of jokes, and it's not fun. It's not fun to be a Giants fan right now. So. What's the overall tone? What do you know when people? Hey, you cover the Giants, Jordan Raanan. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a year. Are people making jokes to you, or what's the tone about the Giants from like
there's been
national
a lot of
people?
Honestly, like a bunch of people. I mean, 3, 4, 5 times have been asked. How'd they keep their job? Like that's the thing. Like you get that. It's like God, man. They're what are they doing over there? It's bad. Holy cow, the Saquon thing. Like, did that blow up in their face or what? Like, could it be any worse? Like. That's the perception, I think, from people around the league, other teams as well, even to the point where a prominent agent said to me, like trying to keep my, I don't need my guys going there, like kind of deal. Not that he wouldn't bring them there, but like in order for the Giants to bring guys, they're going to have to pay them very handsomely. There's not a lot of guys who are like, if I have a choice and these two things are equal, and one is a team that's winning. This holds true for every team. The bad teams that are struggling. If you have a choice between, I'm creating a complete hypothetical here, the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Giants, and you're an offensive player, you're going to be like, I'm going to Kansas City, like, huh? Right? Like, they haven't been a good team. So yeah, that they're not the most desirable location at this time now. Ultimately, I don't think that hurts you that much in acquiring players because if you pay enough money, you get the player. That's how this is.
They want to get paid. Yeah, they want to get paid.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? Amen to that. I love asking this. I usually ask this during training camp, but I figured now's a good time since the talking points are pretty. That's the same. It's quarterback, pick 3. What are they doing here? What are they doing there? So what is something that maybe you're thinking about, you're writing about, you're researching, whatever, that maybe nobody else is?
Well, I'm looking at it and saying the Giants are talking a lot about this QB process that they have. And it's right. We like this our process. Well, what is that process?
That's the word. Yep.
What does that entail? Why should we have trust in it? They're like, oh yeah, the results are great. Yeah. Miraculously, the years they didn't draft quarterback, they had them all pegged right. Oh yeah, everybody does, Like, hey, when I don't put out my draft grades, they're perfect, Yep. Like, it's what a coincidence. Meanwhile, you haven't drafted a guy, and so how do we really know? And all you did, the only thing we have on record is you invested in Daniel Jones, and we saw how that worked out. Brought in Drew Lock, we saw how that worked out. You brought in Tyrod Taylor, you didn't want to come back,
You didn't play him.
What's that?
and he didn't play him when he was clearly there was an opportunity to play him, and they chose Vibes and Tommy DeVito. So.
I wonder why he didn't want to come back.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of the situation of where we're at, and I'm looking into that. I'm curious, what is their QB process? I don't know at this point. I don't know if we're really going to find out. Like, if there's something that they do that's unique, they're going to do their best to hide it, right? But we haven't done everybody else. That's how the league works. I'm not blaming them on that. That's what you should do. If you have something proprietary, you keep it to yourself.
Yeah, so from that, here's something that when thinking about their QB process, what I'm wondering is, what is it outside of Brian Daboll? Seems like he's the lead. Obviously, he's going to be the lead catalyst. He's going to be a major voice in that. But if there are major decision makers in that Giants building that, maybe hypothetically, Brian Daboll wants Shedeur Sanders, but there's Dennis Hickey and Brandon Brown want Cam Ward. What are those conversations? And what is that like? And obviously, Joe Schoen's the one with the final say. But when you have Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll as attached to each other at the hip, what does the Giants quarterback process look like outside of Brian Daboll's input, Brian Daboll's film work, Brian Daboll's whatever? That's something that I'm now wondering.
It has to be a joint decision on who the quarterback is going to be between Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. And it can't be like one guy's for it again, one guy's against it. They have to come to an agreement and say, we both fully believe this is the guy.
Yeah.
And if not, it's not going to be good.
And if not going to be good.
Oh, bueno.
All right. Do you have one more? I'm going to ask you one more.
Sure. Go ahead. I have this bag right here.
Yeah.
In front of me that's like calling my name.
What is it?
Concierge Lounge in the JW Marriott is one of the best out there.
Oh my God.
So they have all the candy jars. So you fill up your bag and you just bring them to your room, right?
That's awesome.
So this,
just go back down. Yeah.
We got peach rings. I'm a big fan of peach rings. The little mini Reese's, always money, gummy bears.
Oh, gummy bear. Yeah, you got me. You got me good.
Blue and white jelly beans, it looks like.
I'm out on jelly beans.
Yeah, it's probably my least favorite thing in the bag. But I was showing you everything that's in the bag.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I need the context.
So yeah, this is really calling my name.
Something I'm thinking about. I talked to you about this pre-show. Do you think guys should even work out at the combine anymore? Like I have this vision for the NFL scouting combine, and I also, when people ask me, "Are you going to go to the combine?" and I'm like, "No," because I realistically can't pitch to my company to send me to a networking event where, we can't make a ton of content out of it.
We're not really allowed in the building even for the actual combine.
Because it's all TV. I'm wondering, even from you, do you think guys should even work out? I think it should just turn into an MLB winter meetings where executives meet, agents meet, everybody meets and goes in one spot, and then even the prospects can come here. Except you don't work out. You get measured. You get evaluated medically. You do your interviews, but you don't work out. Now, that would be horrible for TV since a shit ton of people watch it on TV, but that's my thought.
I think there's value to the workouts, especially for some positions. And, think about it. The conditions are always different. The timing is always different when it comes to the 40. Everybody does it differently. When you go to the pro days, it's the wild, wild west, where when you go to Indianapolis, even if the timing was somehow off, it doesn't matter if the timing's off, if everybody's doing it with the same regulations, the same timing system, right? Then you just compare everybody to everyone else that was there.
Yeah.
So I do think it's valuable in that regard. It's valuable for the guys that are from the smaller schools that didn't have the opportunity, and you want to see them run. I think cornerbacks, it matters what you run, right? All these things I think are good, and I think it is better if it's unified, that everybody's running in the same conditions, right? Instead of maybe you go running your pro day, it's outside, and there's a 10-mile wind at your back. Or, 10 miles isn't that much, but you get my idea. You get the idea.
Yeah.
You get the point.
I just think so many of the
at your back.
As the light goes out in studio 2, like it does every 40 minutes. Yeah, my thinking is like if you're an NFL fan that's watching the NFL Combine, right? Number one, you're a pretty in-depth football fan, but also there's a chance that you probably don't care about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round linebacker that's going to. You want to see the guys that you want to see. You want to see Travis Hunter run the 40. You want to see Travis Hunter compete at both wide receiver and DB and do stuff. You want to see Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward throw.
Running backs, yeah,
But if those guys are going to just opt out and say, all right, I'm a top guy and I'm just going to opt out, I understand it's significant for the hundreds of other guys that are there. But as a consumer, I'm like, well, you're going to do this at your pro day. And that's something that we can look, even though you're right, like the conditions are different. And
more from a TV perspective of what you watch than from a practical perspective for the teams.
Right. I'm 100% talking about it as a consumer. 100%.
Same workout. Right.
Yeah. 100%.
So yes, I from your perspective as a fan, it's almost like, what am I even watching?
Yeah.
But the league found a way to, make this a television event now. And I, work at ESPN and I'm all for it. Go.
And much like everything else the NFL does, they find a way to make a shit ton of money off of
Go Combine.
Whatever's going on. So, which is awesome. All right, Jordan. Thank you. I appreciate you.
You got it. Gonna go roam the hallways and bars and
eat candy.
Restaurants of Indianapolis.
And eat candy.
Yeah. I will find out a lot in the next 24 hours. So things are subject to change, especially on the free agency part. I will know a lot more about Giants plans, I think, in the next 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right, well, you'll keep us posted.
Will do. Justin.
Plug yourself.
To Bobby on getting married.
Oh, yes.
Way to grow up. He's now full-blown journalism guy, married. He'll have kids soon enough. Like, he's really growing up.
Really growing up right before our eyes. And when am I going to get married? Do you know? Can you tell the future?
You're young. You're young.
How old do you think I am?
Under 30.
I am under 30, but give me a number.
All that matters. 27.
Wow, good job. I'm turning 27 on March 11th. I'm turning 27. So great job.
I think I got married at 27.
All right, yeah. Nope.
I mean, I could have waited.
I'm far off. I'm very far off.
Yeah, you'll be married by 45.
Okay, I like that window. I really like that window. I thought you were going to tell me like 33, 30. No, I'm confident by 45.
Oh, I wanted to make sure I gave you time.
I'll have things figured out. And I need extra time. I had an IEP growing up in school. All right, thank you. All right, thank you to Jordan for coming on the show. Really, was in a pinch. Jordan did a big favor. This is why he's a Tony Award winner. I appreciate him. I owe him something. I always like to say, like, hey, I owe you dinner. But I'm going to be honest. I think there's a lot of people in the world that Jordan Raanan would rather have dinner with than myself. Maybe he'll go to the Candlewick Diner with me after Giants practice one day. I don't know. We'll see. I owe him. Tell Jordan thank you, by the way. How about that? Tweet at Jordan Raanan. Say, go to the Candlewick Diner with Justin Pennick. This is how I know you listen to the end. Go to Twitter. Or reply to the show post that we do on Twitter, and we put it out at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning every morning, and say, thank you, Jordan, for coming on the show with Justin. He wants to treat you to the Candlewick Diner. That's what you have to tweet, and that's how I know you listened until the end of the show. We will be back next week, next Tuesday. I don't know what we're going to be doing yet. We'll probably, recap the Combine in some sort of way, in whatever way that Talking Giants does. I appreciate everybody who listens. And until then, let's go Big Blue.